another edition of Ask NP Deidre with Nurse Practitioner Deidre Arms from Aspire Wellness Integrative Health out of Ohio. Make sure you do subscribe to her channel, NP Deidre. Also, The Way to My Heart, that's our channel as well, for more great information like this. It is American Heart Month, and we have a really powerful story, I hear, NP Deidre, with Katie, one of your nurse practitioners over at your place, also with her brother, Sean. Can you start us off on this story? I mean, it's definitely timely with American Heart Month.
Right. So we want to welcome you, Sean. Sean has quite a journey that started when he was younger, with a cancer diagnosis first. And so we'll have him just kind of talk about that and, how that led into some things that happened in the most recent year and just kind of where he is on his journey now, because I think that's a piece of care that kind of gets missed. And Sean was told some things like from providers that he would never X, Y, and Z, and he is living that life and doing those things and growing a family. So his story needs to be out there for everybody to hear. And I want to introduce Katie. Katie has been a nurse practitioner for a really long time and has worked with us here at Aspire since the inception and has just a heart for people. And so when she talks about Sean, like, it's just like so much care of how much she loves him, really shows through. And I wanted him on here last year, but we decided to wait till this February.
I'm happy to be here.
Can you bring us back to the beginning, Sean? And not to have you relive it, but I know you're in a really great place right now, and so you don't have to deep dive, but just give us the scope of kind of when this health journey started for you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So let's go back to early 2008. January, February, started to have some issues. Was a very active guy. Played sports in college. Was in great shape at that time. I was 24 years old, just about to turn 24, and had some issues kind of in my side. I attributed them to probably just basketball, kind of getting boxed out and kidney shots and stuff, and not a big deal, still playing through it. And Katie had noticed, like, hey, she had me laid, I remember, down on the ground. I can remember like it was yesterday, and kind of raised my legs in the air, and she kind of stepped like right on my spleen. I had a major issue going on there where my spleen, it ended up being, Katie might remember more than I do. I think it was about 3 times normal, what its normal size should be. There was also some issues with my nails. I had wisdom teeth extracted at that time, and the dentist noticed, like, hey, you have 4 dry sockets. These things aren't healing. And so I went in for a blood draw. It was actually a blood draw, just mandatory by my employer, and noticed that my blood counts have really bottomed out. So went over to the James Cancer Hospital. This was early February of 2008. And it was on a Friday. I'll never forget. It was Friday morning. At team meeting, told my staff, like, hey, I'll be back, later. I didn't come back. And, the results, actually preliminary results at the James Cancer Hospital, the doctor came in and said, hey, someone in your health, how you're carrying yourself and your demeanor, it doesn't seem like anything very serious. We just think you might need some meds or anemic or some liquids. Lo and behold, about 72 hours later, cancer doctor came in and said, hey, we're running the slides still. It looks like that you have acute myeloid leukemia. And so within about a 72-hour period, my life got flipped upside down. So was in the hospital. Blood cancer's not really outpatient, inpatient. So on and off for close to 12, 13 months at the James Cancer Hospital. Katie is a match for me. So I received a bone marrow transplant from her. And
Oh my God, I just got chills.
The doctors, they couldn't get me into remission. So I went through 3 rounds of chemo, 3 very strong rounds of chemo, and it culminated with a combination called busulfan and Cytoxan, Bucy, which is pretty rough on the body. I was struggling pretty good. thank God, I had positive support from the family and friends and kept me going. But no, doctors were transparent, said, hey, we're probably looking at a 5 to 7% chance on this. But when you're going through it, you're either 0 or 100, right? So the cards were dealt and we had to deal with it. And, getting through that first 100 days, 200 days was crucial, not just to get any type of infections, diseases. I always tell people, like, look, I was wearing masks way before they were the thing to do with COVID. So the cool thing to do. So, a year got by, I got off a lot of the medication. It intertwines a little bit, the heart piece of it. I did throughout 2008, latter part, culmination of the chemo drugs did put me into heart failure. But it was not something that the doctors at that time were very concerned about. They basically said, hey, your ejection fractions dropped down to, roughly 20%. Maybe less, 15, Katie might know exactly. But it was like, hey, we think it might recover pretty quickly. And it did. Really, within about 100 days, I was back to normal within that 50 to 70% range. It wasn't anything long-term that they thought would maybe creep back, or it wasn't anything to be concerned with long-term. But I don't know if you want me to keep going, but, fast forward to
go back just to, I'm
yeah.
curious, Katie, NP Katie, from that moment, what made you have him lay down and check that area, and how did you check that area on his back? What did you think was going on that made you actually do a physical exam?
Just what things weren't adding up right. He had the pain there, and then his wisdom teeth weren't healing. And then I just remember he had a spot on his toe that wasn't healing well. And so it was just like, we just need a CBC. Let's just see what's going on. He's 24. He doesn't see a family physician. So let's just get a CBC done. And I always have that nurse part in me that I'm like, let's just do some labs and take a look. And when it came back pancytopenia, it was not surprising.
But he said you physically checked for his spleen.
Yeah. I mean, I was a nurse in the cardiac floor at that time, so I always had my hands on patients. I do now. So if his spleen is enlarged, he was having abdominal pain, you just want to see if you feel like an enlargement.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. And so fast forward, I mean, I don't know if they have a cause or if they know, I mean, why would you get this at such a young age?
Yeah. So, the floor that I was on, about 32 of us on the floor, average age about 69, 70. So
Yeah.
nobody really under the age of 40 there. The doctors really attribute it to, they could not give me a definite reason. They said, Sean, basically in your body, I mean, everybody's got cancer cells in their body, blast cells, if you will, less than, roughly 5% or so. And Sean, unfortunately, one of these cells just mutated, did not die off. It could be attributed to diet, pollution, what have you. Leukemia rates are on the rise over the last 20 years. So they didn't really have a definite reason. Not family history, really. It's just, just a bad card to get dealt, but, face it head on.
Okay. So fast forward, you ended up, you got through the cancer part, and then now you're dealing with heart failure.
Yeah, so I did have a stint with heart failure, again, in 2008, then latter part of 2008, as a culmination of the chemo drugs. Not, again, they weren't crazy concerned with it, but, my ejection fraction dropped significantly. And then so fast track to last year, mid July, and starting to have some abdominal issues, some pain, some fatigue, and went into the hospital to get checked out. And lo and behold, my ejection fraction was bottomed back out to 15 to 20%. No rhyme or reason. We really aren't 100% sure what is the reasoning, but so that's where I currently am. And they said they can't really be sure if it's, hey, you already bottomed out once back from the cancer and from the chemotherapy, 17 plus years ago. But it could be an indicating factor.
So what is the EGF now?
I'm sorry. It's right now I'm still So I've been trying to get it back up, obviously through medicine, but I'm still about 20 to 25%.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. That is pretty low. How is that affecting your quality of life?
I don't know if I'm an anomaly or what. I've changed my diet. Katie's on me a lot about that. Low sodium, really no processed foods, anything like that. And so, hit up Orange Theory's been very good for me. Exercise, back in there, and they have the heart rate. You're wearing the monitor; it's right on a screen in front of you. So go to that 3 or 4 times a week, and with proper sleep, I live a pretty normal life, and the doctors really don't understand it. I'm still working 40 to 50 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Most people I know with an EJF of
Yeah.
that low, you would be fatigued all the time, and you seem
Yeah.
like your eyes are wide open. There's no bags.
Yeah. Well, I got to have a son here coming in about 4 weeks. So
Oh, congratulations.
thank you so
Oh my
much.
goodness.
Thank you. So, yeah, quality of life. It's crazy when I share the story, but I live a very, you wouldn't know. None of my peers know. None of my friends really. I'm open. I share it, but I'm lucky and fortunate that I feel relatively normal.
I can
Wow.
remember when this most recent thing, getting a call from Katie, and Katie, want you to share like what that feels like to be the family member to get this news. And she was like calling everybody to get you the right care. Like, share some of that,
Yeah.
Katie. Like, how do you feel as a provider and a practitioner with your brother going through this? And, you know,
I just feel very blessed. He was having some pain, so we got an ultrasound ordered for him. He went to an urgent care. Things kind of got missed a little bit, so I called up a provider who's a physician who is a dear friend of mine, and ended up seeing him at St. Anne's. And he's the one that discovered Sean having the tachycardia, atrial fibrillation. He had a blood clot in his atrium and the heart failure. So just so grateful that he was there, answered my call, got him in, and I just feel like he's gotten excellent care through his journey.
It's interesting because one of my dad's best friends passed away recently of a stroke caused by a clot, and it just too many clots, and it was following chemo. And I've asked several doctors, why is it that there isn't some sort of anticoagulation therapy that follows the use of chemo for a certain amount of time? And yes, there is no evidence probably yet, but you got to practice medicine and create the evidence, right? I'm just seeing it too many times, just over and over. And so I would think that that would be something that would be considered. Is that, I don't know, am I completely off?
I don't, go ahead, Deidre.
I'm unaware of them doing that, or but it does seem like it could be a good prevention of clots after that therapy. It's definitely a world that I've not practiced in, is treatment for cancer.
I work in the OBGYN world, and I do know like there are times when we feel like people need anticoagulated therapy, and do the risk outweigh the benefits and stuff, because they always worry about putting people on that therapy because heaven forbid they're in a car accident or something like that. So I do know they take anticoagulant therapy very serious without the studies.
And they could do a very low dose, maybe start with just a very mild dose, maybe starting them on antiplatelet therapy with an aspirin or something, on top of that. I know not everyone does well with aspirin, but I don't know. I guess after seeing several cases, it's something that when I hear friends that are in cancer treatments, it's something I always suggest, is to talk to your doctor about the potential for clots following that therapy, and to look up the drugs that are being used and whether a potential side effect is clotting. And I mean, I don't know if 2020 hindsight that would have been made a difference for you, Sean. There's probably a lot of 2020 hindsight, right, on a
Yeah.
lot of different things.
Yeah. I mean, the doctors tell me, going back to '08, how when the heart bottomed out, obviously when it recovered, hey, nowadays would they have just, because they took me off everything, off all meds, just cold turkey, like, after once the number recovered. So they did mention like, hey, if that happened now, like for you, would that be the protocol like moving forward? Probably not. They probably would have kept me on a small dose, a continuous of some of those meds to monitor the heart. But yeah, I mean, it played out how it played out.
Yeah, and Sean, like I heard you say you're about to have a child, and Katie has mentioned a little bit of like you were told that wasn't a possibility. So tell us how that feels to know like it was more than a possibility, like baby's almost here.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable. It's unbelievable. I'm sure it'll hit me a lot more here in about 5 weeks. But yeah, no, back to '08. Obviously, they had advised. I was on some heavy medications. Getting Dilaudid and different medications that they had advised to reserve and bank some sperm at the time. But through medications, it just all happened so quick at the hospital that I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I was pretty groggy. And so they said it could be, it's more capable, usually on the male side, that still they can have children than female. But at the same time, they said it was a huge risk and something that more than likely you probably would not be able to have children in the future. So yeah, that was, something that really, played on me and just didn't sit well. And it was just a blessing, last year when we got the news that, hey, we're pregnant, and after trying for quite some time, but through God's miracle, the baby son coming here, welcoming here right about St. Patty's Day.
And that was natural.
Yes.
No. Okay. So when you got married, you had to have had the discussion.
Yes.
With your wife to say, hey, I don't know if I can have kids. Bring us back to that conversation. I mean, of course, true love overcomes, but
yeah, first I had to have the discussion. My DNA has changed. I'm male DNA to female DNA, right? So I got Katie's DNA. Lost my XY chromosome. I have two female chromosomes. So no, through joking aside, we had that discussion, and obviously, she's believes in the power of prayer as well, and we just through prayer and continuous trying, luckily it worked out. I mean, she was on board. She's like, look, I love you for you, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if not, we'll find other alternatives. But luckily here we are and welcoming a child.
that is incredible. Do you have a name picked out? Do you know if it's a boy or girl yet?
We do. It is a boy, and we're going with Maverick Joseph. Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
Why Maverick? I love that name.
So we have some early date nights with Top Gun movies involved and stuff. So I've always loved the name Maverick. So I have a friend that had that name, their child, and just stuck. We wanted to go with something a little unique, and we're like, hey, MJ, you could go by Mav, you could go, whatever. So we're excited.
How cute. Oh my God, that's so exciting. And Katie, how does it feel I'm sure every step of the way your nurse practitioner hat had to have been on, and there had to have been moments where you just kept your mouth shut, smiled and nodded because you wanted to keep hope. But sometimes knowing too much can be a hindrance
I
for you
agree.
as a practitioner.
I agree. And then I've learned a lot that sometimes numbers just are numbers. Like we have to look at the person. And I just keep looking at Sean and I'm like, Sean, your EF is just a number and we're going to want to go by how you're feeling. When I got the call that day, I'll never forget, I was pregnant with my third and I got the call that I was the match. And I was the worst person because I was pregnant and I couldn't do the bone marrow transplant until I had my daughter. So, but so thankful I was. You're either 10 out of 10 out of a match or you're not a match at all. So my two sisters were very relieved that they weren't a match because they don't do medical at all. So little just like, oh my gosh, with that. So I had delivered my third emergency C-section, had a blood loss, had to recoup in 20 days, and then I did the bone marrow for Sean. So I was recuperating from the bone marrow transplant and the C-section. So that was a little rough, but so thankful. I mean, I do it all again for him with the 5% chance. I mean, he's a miracle and he's here. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of his journey. And then again, with the heart failure, something wasn't right. And he got excellent care. And he's still here, and I'm just so excited to meet Maverick here in a month. So it's just a blessing to be a nurse practitioner, to catch some things with him, but just being his sister through this journey has been amazing.
It's amazing. My uncle, my dad's brother, ended up with a form of leukemia, and they said, "Hey, same thing, need bone marrow." My dad was ready to fly out, and my uncle just said, "I don't want to put someone else through that," and literally just stopped talking to everyone and just passed, and just didn't want to put my dad through it and the risks. And my dad was like, "I would have done anything." Right. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, Sean, what was going through your mind knowing that your sister was having a baby and had to have an emergency C-section and all this stuff, and on top of it, giving you a bone marrow? I mean, that's a lot, and that probably stressed you out a little bit, going, "Gosh, do I really want to put my sister through this?"
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot going on. I mean, I felt terrible. I remember at the time being in the hospital that, under the tight restrictions that I were, I couldn't even see her daughter that she just had. And, I'm sitting there kind of helpless in the hospital, right? And I remember the doctors kind of saying, "Hey, Sean, just, you got to hang on, you got to hold out, an extra couple months." And so it was a guessing game. I mean, we really didn't know. I mean, I was kind of going downhill a little bit. Like I said, through the, chemotherapy, I never got into full remission, excuse me. So I went into the transplant with Katie's cells still in really having quite a bit of cancer in me, which is not an ideal situation. So they were really worried about, graft versus host. How was her cells going to come in? My cells try to fight off. It was a smooth process fairly for me. I was eating Adriatico's pizza when I received my transplant. So I remember Katie had it a lot worse, being a little bit bigger of a guy that I am. She got a lot of those bone marrow aspirates. I think she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was north of 60.
Correct.
So that's, she went through hell for me. And I can literally say I owe her my life for it.
What do you go through with that? It's more than 60. What do you,
Katie, you can
60?
do that.
So I had a spinal, so I was awake talking with the CRNA, and I had to lay on my stomach, and they had to protect my C-section incision. And I had a physician on one side and an NP on the other, and they would alternate between my iliac crest, and I had 4 holes that they would alternate out of, and they aspirated the bone marrow, and they took out 1 liter of the bone marrow. And I ended up having 2.53 stem cells when they spun it down with the fluffy marrow.
That had to have been painful.
Pain for years. So yeah, I still have the scars from on my hips. So
But
yeah.
look, you glow. You just have such an amazing energy about you. Oh my goodness. I mean, both of you. It's such a beautiful story, and the love for one another and what you did for one another. And God, it's incredible.
So much resilience here. Like it's just an over and over story of resilience. Just tears
No,
me
I
up.
Honestly, the doctors also said, I know Katie, it wasn't the ideal situation for her to be the match, but she ended up being the greatest match because I did receive some of that cord blood, that rich blood and nutrients after she gave birth. And it could have been some of that blood that I received that ultimately helped me as I was still in full disease when I received her transplant. That ultimately it was a miracle that like she was the match and I received her cells. So kind of a cool little spin to it as well.
Oh, maybe your baby girl is also a little
Yeah,
lifesaver, isn't
yeah,
she?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God. Oof, I got chills. I mean, I'm just speechless by this story. In terms of getting the message out there to others and to give them hope, would you mind just sharing what was going through your mind? What goes through your mind now versus then? What kept you going and what still keeps you going, and fighting strong?
I think the biggest thing at that time, and Katie, I lean into Katie for a lot of things, not just health related. And she's, a someone I really look up to a lot. And I remember her saying all the time, Sean, don't read what you see on the internet. That's based on, years ago, studies that aren't current, aren't accurate. And I was, to people out there going through it now, the medicine that you're receiving right now is not something maybe that someone 5-10 years ago received. The chemotherapy drugs that I received, that busulfan Cytoxan mix, was very new, was very fresh. And now obviously someone going through it is going to receive something even better than that. So, knowing that technology and current drugs that are out on the market that are being released are just better and better each day, along with the care that we're receiving, and then the power of prayer. I mean, you got to take it one day at a time, break it down into little increments. Hey, let's get one day, 1 week at a time. Let's get through it. I mean, the light's always going to be at the end of the tunnel. God doesn't give us more than we can't handle. So, I mean, I truly lean into people, lean into those around you for support, because you can't do it all alone. I always thought it was a lot harder on the people, the caregivers and my loved ones, than it was for me, because I knew what I had. I had no choice but to go through it. They were the ones seeing me struggle. I knew I had to deal with it. So, just it made me a better person in the long run. I never look back, and I'm terribly sad that I went through that. It's a blessing in disguise. As dreary of a time as it was, I came out a better person and a stronger person for it. And now I'm able to share my story and help those that are unfortunately having to go through the same thing.
NVIDIA's CEO came out recently and with a comment where people were asking him, well, how do you become a great entrepreneur? How do you become successful? And he said, it's the one thing that I really can't teach, and it's resilience, because I can't make you suffer. I can't make you go through something. And I can only tell you that going through the suffering that I went through and my family went through, and this and that and the other, that built the resilience, that is my key to success. And so, as NP Deidre, perfectly explains, like, you have this resilience, and you went through this, and you have to believe that God has a purpose for you. The reason you went through this, you needed resilience to be able to just take on the world. Have you figured out that you do have a mission, that you do have a purpose? And it could even be to bring a wonderful angel into this world. Do you have any idea at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I almost left, I'm in the financial sector, and I almost, going through everything I went through, people were saying, hey, you got a little bit of background now in the medical field. It feels like, when you got blood cancer, you're so immersed in it, and you're at the hospital for well over a year. Got to know a lot of people. And then, almost went into like a motivational type speaking thing, but ended up back in the banking industry. Love what I do. I help people, secure financing, first time home buyers, things like that. That's a passion of mine. So getting people the American dream. So in terms of on the side, family, yeah, I mean, it's always been wanted to bring in a family, and a large family. We grew up with 4 kids in the household, and I love, running around Christmas time and all that, and looking to do the same. So some of that purpose that you talk about, I'm still figuring out. I'm 18 years past that cancer diagnosis, but life's a long journey, and I'm hoping to figure out a lot more as we go.
I'm
One thing that
interested, sorry, to know, Sean, what will you tell Maverick about family? What lesson will you teach him about family?
It's a deep question right there.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cliche to say, family is everything, but it truly is. When you're going through tough times, and when, it's hard to see the light on the other side, who's your backbone? And it's those that you can fall back on and rely on. And it's your mother, father, sisters, siblings. I mean, it's just family is everything. It's what we got. It's the love and support of those that make you what you are. So, he's going to have a strong background when it comes to, knowing like, hey, hopefully we have a couple kids following him as well, and he's going to be a leader of the pack for his younger siblings. But no, we're going to be a tight knit unit, and I told my wife, we're going to be a power couple, and that's a lot of working out, is to try to get a little fitter and moving forward. But yeah, we're excited, and he's lucky to have the aunts that he has, including Katie, and a good grandmother and my mother. So it'll be a close knit unit.
Were there any moments where you felt alone despite having everyone there, that you didn't want to be a burden, that you couldn't really share a lot of the things that you were experiencing because you didn't want them to feel bad? You didn't, it's sometimes it can feel like even a greater burden when other people, you don't want them to feel sorry for you. And so you kind of isolate yourself a little bit. Did you have those moments, or were you pretty open with everyone, like, this freaking sucks?
Uh,
Like,
that's, that a lot of people don't think about what you just brought up. That's a great point. And it hit me. It hit me the very first night I got diagnosed. I was supposed to go out with 4 or 5 friends out in Columbus, Ohio, and all of a sudden now I'm in the hospital thinking maybe I got diagnosed. This was right before I got diagnosed, excuse me, that Friday, and they came up and I had to tell my friends, like, look, they think I'm in here, possible cancer diagnosis, and they didn't know how to take it. And I was always the kind of guy that got our friends together and bring everyone, like, hey, we're all going out, and call everybody, and they didn't know how to take it. They and the biggest thing I remember is that first night, it's like they didn't know how to treat me. They didn't know how to act towards me, kind of, and it hit me a little bit. So to answer your question, I kind of did get a little bit like, hey, I don't want people to know exactly what I'm going through. Kind of put up a tough, shield if I can, and fight a little bit more and look tougher than it may be. But no, there was plenty of days in the hospital that I wanted to give up. It at times got real tough. And but through people like Katie, my mother, it's, hey, one day at a time. This is just a bump, get through it. My friends, I was lucky, my mother stayed almost every single night, on a cot right there beside me, or whether it was a girlfriend that I had at the time, or some family friends coming through. I was to lean on them. My sisters stayed in chairs, like folding chairs beside me, and I was sleeping with their head just sitting like this. So it was, it was incredible. Looking back, I always tell people, like, I don't know how I did it. I don't know how people go into it now and you did it, but you when you're going through it, it's a blur, and you got to fight it. And here I am.
how do you talk to, as being the patient, how do you talk to family and friends about, reacting towards you? Because you want to be real with them, but you also
Right.
don't want to um be the Debbie Downer, right? And you don't want to have to also put on for them. Um, how do you manage those conversations, or did you have to have any of them, or just kind of let the pieces fall where they may?
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of times I needed to lean on them for some help. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. I needed to just talk things through. Um, I became very open with my struggles and how I was feeling. It wasn't all transparent from how I was. I didn't really lose a lot of weight. I was still eating through, uh, the diagnosis, which I couldn't taste anything. It tasted like brushed nickel, and I didn't have any appetite. But my family was forcing yogurt or protein shakes down my throat. So
For them.
it was so I still had some strength, like, well, a lot more strength maybe than most. But no, it was taking a toll, just because I wanted to be the old me. I wanted to be what I normally was accustomed to being, and then the thoughts creep in, like, is this my new life? Is this what I have to look forward to for the rest of my life? So at some point it just clicked, like, no, this is temporary, like, bear down, get through it. And I almost had to tell myself, Sean, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like, there was moments there I was just like, woe is me, like, and I just had to, I journaled a lot. But I also leaned into people, the loved ones around me, to, give me words of encouragement, and just hear just them listening to me was enough. A lot of times they didn't even have to say anything. Just letting me voice out what I was going through was enough.
It sounds like, Sean, mindset was a thing for you too. I know in my journey, like, our mind can trap us in the bed or it can get us to the top of the mountain.
Yep.
And it sounds like you had that mindset. So did you envision yourself well when you were so ill and in the hospital all those days? Like, was that something that you could see, that version of yourself being well? And and getting back to you.
That's so true, Deidre. I mean, positivity alone, having an optimistic outlook and mind over matter is a real thing. I believe that. And once I started, one of my cousins who had a cancer diagnosis, he said, he always referred back to Lance Armstrong, like live strong. And then he got me the bracelet and said, live now. And he said, the day you're diagnosed with cancer is the day that you become a survivor. And I wrote that up on my whiteboard in the hospital room, I remember. And like right after I got diagnosed, and I was like, yeah, I'm a survivor. I got this. Journaling, writing it down, like I am going to beat this. This is just temporary, having those thoughts, kind of writing it into, fruition. I think it's a real thing. I don't want to overplay that. And I'm not just saying that to say it. I truly believe having that optimistic mindset is a real thing in creating health.
I do too. I strongly believe that. Like, I feel like if people can't see themselves well, that they get stuck.
Yeah.
And I know for me, it was such a powerful thing to move through my journey as well. And so it's good to hear other survivors of whatever talking about that, because your mindset could either leave you stuck in a bed and not being able to do anything, or it can be what brings you out of it. And so,
Right.
so encouraging. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you so much to you for sharing your story. I just wish you the best. So excited. Hopefully you'll share a picture of Maverick when you have Maverick. I'm
Would
so
love to.
excited for you.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully you'll have your full flight squad like you
Yeah.
want, your big family. Um,
Yeah, that'd be great.
more kids to come, right?
Yes, that's the plan.
I love it. And Katie, thank you so much. Any final words from either one of you for those that are watching to inspire hope, as if the last half hour has not done exactly that?
I think the one thing that I learned through this whole journey was listen to the person. Like Sean was not a patient to me, but he was my brother. But listening to the patient about how they're feeling, numbers are numbers. And I can't stress enough, like his ejection fraction, his 5% chance of beating the AML are just numbers. And that's what we have focused on with his whole journey. And I do believe when people get diagnoses, fixing the body, creating a mind that is positive, and just making you feel good. I mean, that's the most important thing. Numbers are always going to be on those lab sheets. And my brother, like, is across Orange Theory doing things with heart failure and feeling amazing. He's doing his apple cider vinegar. He's eating like, we're going through the whole diet, and he just feels amazing. So I just want to encourage everybody when they get a diagnosis or they get a number from a provider, take it with a grain of salt and think about, how do I feel? And I just think that's so important.
Thank
Yeah,
you
and
so much.
I think the thing
Go
I
ahead.
would add is, cancer doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're 22 or 82. Same with heart failure, any diagnosis we get. And I know as a male, a lot of my friends, especially in my 20s, are stubborn. I don't need to go to the doctor. I'll feel good in a day or two. I think we know our body better than anybody else. And if something's wrong, I preach to a lot of my friends, like, please get it checked out. You don't know what it all is. I work in the banking industry. I'm not a health guru. I lean into Katie a lot and she helps me out, but please go, if you got something major going on or something different, or you just don't feel right, and it's maybe a little bit over a prolonged period of time, please get it checked out.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching, tuning in. Make sure you like this video, show some love for Sean and Katie, and help inspire hope for others. If you like the video, you subscribe to our channel, it'll help YouTube to actually improve our algorithm and get the word out there so other people can watch this story and hopefully find hope as well. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate you. And next week, I think we're going to hear a little bit more. I know we've heard Deidre, Nurse Practitioner Deidre's story, but we're going to get an update on her journey. That's next week right here. So make sure you hit the notification